A baby is locked onto your face right now, completely still, mouth slightly open, dark pupils fixed on your eyes with a focus so total it almost doesn't look like a baby at all. Your instinct is to smile back, to wave, to say something soft, because what you see is a tiny person gazing up at you with something that looks like wonder, maybe recognition, maybe just the blank absorption of a mind that hasn't learned where to look yet. But researchers who study early cognition have spent years trying to understand what this looks like from inside the baby's mind. And what they found doesn't just change how you see babies, it changes how you understand the earliest form of human consciousness. The most obvious explanation is simple. Babies stare at faces because faces are visually interesting. High contrast, symmetrical, moving. A face hits every feature that an underdeveloped visual system would naturally track. It's a perceptual reflex. The brain sees something complex and locks onto it the way a camera autofocuses on whatever the lens finds most defined. Newborns can only clearly resolve objects 8 to 12 inches away, exactly the distance from a feeding mother's arm to her face. Nature seems to have designed the stare. It looks like biology doing what biology does. Here's the problem with that theory. In 2017, researchers at the University of Uppsala in Sweden showed newborns, infants just a few hours old, pairs of images. One a normal face, the other a scrambled version with the same features rearranged into non-face configurations. The contrast, brightness, and complexity were identical. If babies were just tracking visual salience, they should have responded equally to both. They didn't. They consistently preferred the organized face, not because it was more stimulating, but because something in the newborn brain already understood the specific geometry of a human face before any visual learning had occurred. The stare was never about complexity. It was about recognition. To understand what the baby is actually doing, you have to step out of adult visual experience entirely. A newborn does not see the world as you do, a stable environment with persistent objects and continuous space. Researchers at Harvard's Laboratory for Developmental Studies, particularly work led by Elizabeth Spelke over the past 3 decades, have shown that the infant's world is something closer to a series of events than a scene. Objects appear, disappear, move. Without yet having built the neural architecture that creates permanence and depth, the baby exists in a kind of perceptual present, a world of pure, fleeting appearances. Into that shifting stream of sensation, a face arrives, but here is what the baby is doing with it. A landmark study from the University of Washington's Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences, published in 2013, measured neural oscillations in infants as young as 7 months while they watched human faces. Using high-density EEG, the researchers found that the infant brain synchronizes its own oscillatory rhythms with the temporal patterns of a face in motion, the micro-movements, the shifts of expression, the timing of a blink. The baby's brain is not passively receiving a face, it is tuning itself to it, the way a radio locks onto a signal frequency. Your baby is not watching you. Your baby is synchronizing with you. This synchrony has a function that goes beyond recognition. Research from the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences, published in 2019, found that when caregivers and infants engage in mutual gaze, their neural activity converges. Literally, the brainwaves of 2 separate people begin to align. The effect was strongest during precisely the moments when the infant stared longest. The stare, it turns out, is the infant actively seeking coherence in a chaotic sensory environment. A face is not just interesting. A face is the most reliable, most responsive, most information-dense source of pattern that the baby has ever encountered. Not random visual fixation, interpersonal calibration. And then there is what the baby is building. A 2015 study from the University of London's Centre for Brain and Cognitive Development, led by Tobias Grossman, tracked what specific features within the face newborns prioritize during extended gaze. It was not the nose, not the mouth. Consistently, across subjects, the infant eye locked onto the eye region, and specifically onto the eyes when they were directed back at the baby. The researchers found that mutual gaze activated a distinct response signature in the infant prefrontal cortex that unfocused gaze did not produce. The infant brain already distinguished, "You are looking at me," from "You are looking near me." Your baby is not gazing blankly. Your baby is reading the direction of your consciousness. But here's where it gets even stranger. All of this neural synchrony, all of this face preference and gaze reading, happens before the baby has developed explicit memory. These infants cannot form narratives about what they are experiencing. They will not remember this specific moment of eye contact. And yet the research suggests that something is being recorded anyway, not as a memory of the event, but as a template for how social reality works. Work from Columbia University's Department of Psychiatry, published in 2024, traced early face-gazing behavior in infants longitudinally and found that the pattern of mutual gaze in the first weeks of life correlates measurably with the quality of later social cognition at 18 months, well beyond the window of explicit memory formation. The babies who stared the longest and most intently were laying down something that looked less like a memory and more like an operating system, a default framework for how to read other minds. They were not just experiencing connection, they were learning that connection exists. So the next time you see a baby locked onto your face, perfectly still, mouth soft, pupils fixed on your eyes with that unnerving, absolute focus, remember what's actually happening inside that mind. They are synchronizing their nervous system to yours. They are reading the direction of your attention. They are learning, from the geometry of your face and the rhythm of your movements, that there are other centers of experience in the world, and that those centers can be found, tracked, and met. A baby staring at you is not a passive creature absorbing sensation. It is a consciousness, days old, actively reaching across the space between two minds and finding that the space can be crossed. If you've ever held a baby and felt, in that moment of eye contact, like something real was happening, you were right. What did the baby stare reveal about how you think about infant awareness? Leave your thought below. I read every comment.